If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. There are mainly two groups of people that interact with my videos for highly specific reasons. In one group, they want to learn how things work, see it in action, figure out ways to alter or improve it, see its potential, and are in general adding to their knowledge toolset. This is something I've always highly encouraged. The second group click on the video, scroll down to the repo link, and are more interested in downloading the code and moving on with their lives. If you fall into the second category, then this video isn't that kind of video. Today I want to go over something that's a bit different from what I normally do. I find it both fun and interesting. Typically, I create a project, show you how to build it, and up until now, it's been heavily focused on Laravel and its ecosystem. Today, we are going to start working on something that is less focused on Laravel specifically and more focused on building something that we can apply to Laravel development. Yes, we are going to be setting up Laravel. We're just going to be creating our own environment where we can develop Laravel, and then we'll be moving on and applying Neovim to what it is we do in Laravel development. As much as I've been working on this, I haven't seen anyone do anything focused on PHP specifically, and that's what we're going to start working on today. So how did I get here? I've always worked on Windows products and I've never had issues with it, at least not anything big that wasn't because I decided to experiment, right? Anyone who said you can't use Windows for Laravel development, well, that's just not true at all. Any language I've tried my hand at, I have had no problems with the environment. I'm slowly moving over to a Linux-based system, and with the recent announcements of upcoming Windows 11, features, I'm increasing my experience level on Linux, and a good portion of Linux for people who like to tinker involves dealing with the terminal. With a tendency for insomnia and watching late night tech videos, I came across the Primogen and just wow. The rabbit hole was real because then came Brody Robertson, TJ DeVries, the Linux Cast, Typecraft, Vero, and many, many, many more. I found out about Neovim and bada bing bada boom, I left VS Code and haven't looked back except for when recording videos. I have been using Neovim for about 2 months or so as of recording this video, and the last time I touched VS Code was the last video I did, which was about 2-3 weeks ago, and I have coded every single day, all day long, every single day, and I have yet to touch VS Code. Using tools in Windows, I've created a bunch of different scenarios using a variety of Linux distros, and have only been using the terminal for every product I'm building now. There's still a lot for me to learn, but for now I'm comfortable enough to share what I do know. Neovim is a Vim-based text editor where you could just pretty much do whatever you want to do. I think it's a fork of Vim, but it's really its own thing. I, of course, wiped out my WSL Ubuntu distro so that we can start from scratch together, but I'll be flashing some Neovim images just so that you can take a look and get an idea of what it could look like. I've definitely added a bunch, but it works for me, and that's what matters. At this point, I've just been adding things as I use them, as over time, my needs could change. Some things I've added, like Emmet Language Server, I haven't been able to get it right, but I'm not too worried about it as I'm still focusing on learning Vim motions and forcing myself to do it the hard way before picking up all of the more reasonable shortcuts. It's just the way my brain works in retaining information. Initially, I set this up on some virtual machines until I was comfortable enough to replicate in WSL distros. And I'm going to show you using WSL, and you'll be able to do it pretty much on any machine you want. As long as it has a terminal, it will work. All of the distros I've tried so far handles it, no problem. Even Arch, by the way. Now we are going to take a look at this Neovim documentation a little bit, and Fireship has a really quick 100 seconds of Neovim in this documentation, which you can also take a look at. I'll leave links for these down in the description, but for now, we're not going to need this. We're going to come back to this in a minute. So to get started, as I said, I'm using WSL, and if you're using any other terminal, you can follow along. Doesn't really matter what operating system because it'll still work. But I am using Ubuntu 24.04, which has dropped recently. It's super smooth. I do like it. It's not my permanent distro, but for purposes of WSL, this works just fine for me. So as I said, it's a brand new installation, so there's nothing on it. We look, there's nothing here. So the first thing that we want to do, since we've just installed it, is to make sure that it's updated. Make sure you put in your password. Let it run and let it make sure that everything is updated in terms of the distro. how many videos this is going to take to go through. For now, we're just going to do as much as we can get done in order to set this up. So we've made sure that everything is updated, and some things that we're definitely going to need is I want to make sure that I have Git installed, and I also want to make sure that I have Vim installed. And not because we're actually really going to be needing it. I think this also comes with Nano as well, but I don't really like Nano, so we're going to use Vim. I just wanted to make sure that it was installed. We want to do this as Laravel developers. So what are the things we need? Well, we need PHP Composer, MySQL. I'm doing this in a WSL environment. I have no intentions to use Sail or Docker with this. You could also do that, but to start us off in any particular direction, these are the things that we're going to need for here. Now, the first thing that I want to do before we start installing our PHP and Composer and stuff like that is I want to change up what this is going to look like. This is just basic Ubuntu installations. This is pretty much what it's going to look like with Arch. There's no color or anything like that, and it looks a bit weird, but you get the gist. What I want to do is I want to use OhmyZSH to give us some better styling with this, and it'll have some plugins that we can take advantage of and just different things like this. Now, something that I am trying my best to learn instead of OhmyZSH is to use just ZSH itself and install plugins individually, because over time, the more plugins that you use with OhmyZSH, it does have some kind of impact. I haven't run into any, but there's no need to have all the packages with it unless you don't need it. The particular, quote unquote theme that I want to use from them, I haven't been able to find this theme or integrate it with ZSH directly, but I will eventually figure it out. For now, I'm just going to use OhmyZSH. I want to make sure that ZSH is installed. Just to kind of get us started with something. As I said, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm going to use this for now, and eventually I will move to something way more custom and with way less overhead for me. It's just something that I would really like to learn. Now, if we go to the OhmyZSH documentation, here's the GitHub repo, and you scroll down, you can just go ahead and use this. Now, I don't think I have curl installed, but we'll find out. Go ahead, paste it in. I guess curl is installed. And do I want to make this default? Yes. This is the default little thing, and the name of it is Robert Russell. And how we can find that is if now we open up or we take a look at what's in this home folder, you can see that's where we are, home/whatever your name is, or whatever, however you set that up, right? I want to take a look at this ZSRHRC file. And this is basically just the configuration for OhmyZSH. And we'll be leveraging some more in here, but for now, we're just going to use that. So here I want to change this because the theme I want to use for this is Jonathan. And here I'll just source.zhrsc. And that's what it's going to look like. But let's make sure that we have this. So we may need to actually restart WSL. So let's go ahead and do that. And I've logged back in. All that was just a matter of closing the X and coming back. But we have the file sourced and we should be good. I want to start installing some things. Something about doing this the way that you want to do it is, for me, I'll typically use Laravel with Vue. So something that I know I need to have installed is Node.js, but I don't want to install Node.js directly because that's just too much. So what I've been using for the past couple of years or so is called nvm-sh/nvm. And what this does is it allows you to install this version manager, which means that you can change which versions of Node that you have installed without actually installing all of Node.js. So we'll go down to the installing and updating, and I'll grab this curl command right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to print this out in our .csrhc file. Because we've made ZSH our default shell, it's going to automatically know to do this. I'm going to go ahead, paste this in. Let it run, and it looks like it has exported it to that file. So let's go ahead and open it up. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, you can see here that now we have this run command. So let's quit out of here, and then let's try this. just to see if we're recognizing anything, and we're not. But if we do source.cshrc, because that file has been changed, we should be able to now get this. Now, typically how I use this, these are different commands that you could run with that node version manager. If it's a new install or anything like that, I'll just typically install the latest stable, the latest LTS version. So we can do nvm install LTS. And did I not? Oh, dash. And as you can see, as it's installing, it's going to install the latest release, which is node 20.14. And that's what we should be running. So now we can do node version, which is 20.14. We are moving right along. To install our PHP, MySQL, and those different things that we're going to need for Laravel, we can actually use the deployment guide that I did in last active 10 months ago. This was for 2004 and we're all the way up to 2404, so I think I probably did it about 2 years ago. And this is a gist for that series that we did with a link to the videos, one of the videos if you want to see what that's about, which has information about if you want to SSH for GitHub, DigitalOcean, or whatever it is. So we can actually follow some of this in order to install our PHP and our MySQL actually. So let's start here. We'll use this. I think this is already installed, which is the software properties common. This is going to help us install our PHP. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. Yeah, so it's already installed, which we don't have to do that anymore, I guess. But the next thing we can do is install the repository for PHP. You want to continue. This is just some information on what it's actually doing. So I'm going to go ahead, press enter so that I can install the packages that we'll need to be able to install PHP. So good. So we've got a signature, we have read some lists, and now we should be good to go on installing which PHP version that we want. Now we can do this after, but we can also install this, but we're not using a server, so we don't actually need to have that. We can go ahead and install these. Now, as I said, this was done a couple of years ago. This was using PHP 8, and actively right now is PHP 8.3, which is actually what I want to use. So I'm going to use these, but I'm going to change everything to PHP 8.3, and that's what we'll use. So I'll come over here, I'll clear this out. Go ahead and paste all that in. Make sure that I don't have any empty spaces, which it looks like I do a little bit up top. As you can see, we're going to be using PHP 8.3 comment, all of the things that we're going to need. And again, this actually originally comes from where I got it from, was from the Laravel documentation when it comes to deploying Laravel onto any server. I'm going to go ahead, press enter, let it install, and it's going to run through a bunch of stuff just to make sure that we are good there. You should be able to do, let's clear that. Do PHP version. So now you can see we're running PHP 8.3.7 and we are at the most updated of the PHP versions as of the time of recording this particular video. The next thing that we're going to need is we're going to need something that is going to install the packages that we need to run Laravel, which is Composer. That is the package manager for PHP. So if we go over to the Composer documentation and we go over to the downloads and then come down to this command line installation, again, as I said, I'm using Windows, but I'm also using WSL within Windows, so this isn't going to do much for us. I'm going to go ahead and copy the commands in here, paste that in, and this should install Composer for us. The next thing that we want to do is we want to move this, because in the composer commands, we can move it to this user local bin composer folder, and then we should be able to just call composer as the command. Okay, so let's try to run composer. Look at that, we have composer installed. Done with setting up our Laravel environment or PHP, setup for Laravel. But the thing is, we're not going to be able to run composer globally, which is something that I prefer to do. And in order for us to set that up, we need to head over to the Laravel documentation so that we can be able to install this globally. Now, if we head over to the Laravel documentation and we go over to getting started and installation, we'll come down to creating a Laravel project, and this will be the command essentially to run it. But I want to install the Laravel installer globally so that we can run commands like Laravel new, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy this right here now that we have composer installed. Clear that out, paste that in, press enter, and this will install our Laravel basic packages that are already part of Laravel that work with Composer so that we'll just be able to run it really easily. And as you can see, we have 5.8 for the Laravel installer set up. Now there's one thing that we might have to do. For now, what I'm going to just do is I'm going to restart the terminal, which again is just closing out the X or pressing the X, restarting it. And I want to see if this works as of now. I don't really have anything in here, but I want to make a directory, and this directory, I'll just go ahead and call it repos. CD into repos, and obviously there shouldn't be anything here because we didn't put anything in here yet. So we'll just try the installer. I'll just do testing Neovim. Oh, one more thing that I did forget to do. So I want to set up MySQL before we do anything else. So if we go back to that deploying Laravel documentation that I was showing you a bit ago, and we go up to the MySQL installation process, we can go ahead and use these instructions to give us MySQL. Go ahead, paste that in. Press yes, enter. Now, the reason that I want to install MySQL is because I use MySQL as a database. You can use MySQL or SQLite or whatever you want to use, but my personal preference is to use MySQL. And if our composer is globally set and everything runs fine, when we try to create that new project, we're going to get some MySQL errors because it's not installed in our environment. So let's continue with this and finish this up. We'll start MySQL service. Good, good, good. Now we should be able to get into MySQL. Hey, look at that. There we are. Now, something that I also do is, even though this is in development environment, I still do create this user for development. My password is usually blank and the root is the name of the username. That's something that we can do. Paste that in. And I'm going to get rid of this because I'm not going to need it. And the user is actually going to be root. So go ahead, press that, and that should be good. So let's exit out of here. Clear that. And what's the next thing? So now we should be able to log in like this. So password, good. We're in the MySQL monitor. Go ahead, exit out of that, clear it. And then we can do the MySQL secure installation. This will just run through a variety of questions that we can answer for this. So validate password components. I'll say, yes, I do want to implement some sort of validation for our passwords. Again, as I said, because this is development environment, I keep everything low. Remove anonymous users. Yes. Disallow remote login. Yes. Database. Yes. Reload privileges. And that's good to go. We come back here. That's pretty much set. Everything is pretty much in the same state that it was before, except for now we'll go ahead and use this, and we also have the secure installation for MySQL. Let's go and try creating a project. Okay, so we'll try our Laravel command. And again, as I said, because I'm going to be using Vue most of the time, I'm going to run gent so I can have all of that scaffolding available. Vue, don't need that. PHP, do not wish to set up a Git repository, and let's see what happens. Okay, so for here, as I said, I'm not going to be using SQLite, but you can see the options that it will configure for you. You can do MariaDB, Postgres, SQLite, SQL Server. And again, as I said, I use MySQL. Yes, default database updated. Would you like to run the migrations? I'll say yes. So it doesn't exist. Would you like to create it? Yes. See, we have a new version of NPM available. We don't really have to worry about all that right now. But here it also says new database migrations were added. Would you like to rerun? So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, well, for all intents and purposes, it looks like it worked. Let's do PHP Artisan serve because we have to CD into it. Now let's try it. Okay. And then I'm also going to open up another terminal so that we can run the npm and see if there's anything going on in that area. Just make sure that node is okay, npm is okay, and let's take a look at what's going on in here. It doesn't look like I have node modules there. Let's do this. Let's remove RF, the node modules. And it looks like it removed it. So I'll do npm install because we have a package.json and that should be able to install those packages for us. It looks like it did. So let's try npm run dev again. Okay, very good. So now we have PHP running on one side, npm running on the other side, and we should be good. And look at that. If we go to localhost 8000, we have our Laravel project up and running. We can go to our register login pages. And again, we don't really have anything set up for this because we're really testing Neovim and seeing if this is something that we can make work as Laravel developers. In the next part, it looks like we are going to be installing Neovim and configuring it so that we can actually work on these projects in our new development environment. I hope that having you work with me in the terminal kind of alleviates any fears, apprehensions you might have about the terminal. I know it can be a very scary place, but really it's not scary once you get comfortable with it. And I know we use it in other environments, but we are going to be fully integrated in the terminal by the end of this short series. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button as it really does help out the channel. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like, and here's a playlist to follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.